It's an upset in name. It's an upset in point spread. But if you watch the game, it didn't feel like an upset at all. Texas goes to Tuscaloosa a year after they could have beat Alabama at home. Quinn Ewers gets hurt. Bryce Young saves the day. There was no doubt in this one. Texas goes to Alabama 34-24. The Longhorns pick up the win. There are so many things to talk about here, Jason. First of all, the floor is yours. Texas, Alabama, Texas 34, Alabama 24. The floor is yours, Jason.
All right, so before I say what I want to say here to start, I want to say this. Regardless of what happens from here on out, this is a nice win for Sark. This is a really nice showing for Quinn Ewers. This is a big win for Texas because you beat Alabama. This is the kind of win your program needed. I heard Herb Street say that on the broadcast just as it went final. It's absolutely true. Now I want to say this. I am really interested to see how we view this victory at the end of this season.
Sure.
And the reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure that the Alabama team that we saw tonight is not that good. And I don't mean not number 3 in the country good. I mean not number 10 in the country good. Like, I just, there's a lot of holes, there's a lot of flaws coming into the season when it looked like Milroe was going to be QB1. After watching him last year, certainly, lightning quick, great athlete, but there were some serious passing limitations. I mean, you thought Jalen Hurts had limitations prior to Tua getting there. No, this is far worse than that. Although in the fourth quarter he started throwing some bullets, and those things actually did look impressive in this game. But it told me entering the season that they don't have a great solution at quarterback this year. If there was not someone that could beat Jalen Milroe out unless he had just greatly improved between last season and the limited action that he saw and this year, I was concerned entering the year. And watching that game tonight, you said it best. You can call it an upset because of the ranking. You can call it an upset because of the history of the brands. You can't call it an upset on the field. You can't call it an upset with the rosters either, honestly, because Texas had the better quarterback. They looked like they had more weaponry. They looked faster on defense. They just looked better. They looked like the better football team. It didn't look like they caught Alabama off guard. It didn't look like Alabama took them lightly. It didn't look like Alabama beat themselves. Texas was the better football team and beat them. And again, I just wonder at the end of the year how we look at this. How big a win was this if you actually take in totality for the season? Because I don't know that this Alabama team's not going to have 2 or 3 more of these before the end of the season.
So it's funny you say that because I have 2 big takeaways. The first one is exactly what you said, is that from a size, speed, athleticism perspective, Texas looked they didn't look every bit the part. They looked like the better team, which is jarring. We knew the wide receivers were good. We knew Quinn Ewers. We had seen him make plays in this game last year. Could he sustain it for a full game on the road? All that good stuff. But as you said, it was the defensive front. It was the DB. They just looked bigger, more athletic, more this, more that. And I think that's also leads into my second takeaway is credit Texas, and we're going to talk about Texas momentarily. We got three hours to break it all down. But I think my perspective from, my second perspective is exactly what you said about Alabama. This isn't a one thing fixes it. Like we watched that game, so I'm just going to go through some stats, and I hate doing the stat thing, but Alabama was outgained by close to 100 yards. Texas, 454 yards to 362. Quinn Ewers threw for 349 yards. Alabama on the ground averaged 3 yards per carry. They were 5 of 14 on third down. Texas, 7 of 18. And so I bring it up because there have been Alabama losses in the past where sometimes you just run into a great player. You run into a Joe Burrow, a Cam Newton, a Johnny Manziel, whatever. There are other times where one thing specifically goes wrong. You say, okay, if you get that cleaned up, you'll be okay. This Alabama loss, unfortunately, if you're an Alabama fan, it's a microcosm of the last couple years, but it also, where I'd be concerned, there isn't one thing. Jalen Milroe, I thought, was up and down, but he made some good throws. Finished 14 of 27, passing 2 interceptions. But he doesn't appear to be the solution, but he wasn't fully the problem either. The offensive line couldn't block up front, but could they not block up front because Texas didn't respect the pass? Obviously, the defensive back struggled with the Texas pass game. So that is what stands out to me about this Alabama loss is, we in our business look for this is the problem, this is that. It's the pass rush, it's the DBs, it's the quarterback, it's the offensive line. Texas outmanned Alabama in pretty much every category in this. I'm trying to think of one spot where I guess Alabama's front did a pretty good job against the Texas run game. But other than that, Texas was better in every single category. And so, yes, I don't know what the solution is. I'm rambling here, but it's like I don't know what the solution is for Bama because I don't think it was just one thing that did them in tonight.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, Milroe, the interception was horrible. The second interception, I should say, was horrible. He was inaccurate in the first half. Down the stretch, though, he started playing his best football. Like I said, when he actually started throwing with velocity in the fourth quarter, I was just like, well, maybe he just needs to throw the, Aroldis Chapman fastball every single time because he seems to be a little bit better with that throw. But you look at the running game. I mean, Alabama butters its bread running the football. Jace McClellan had 12 carries for 45 yards, but even that is deceiving because he really had 11 carries for 30 yards because he had one run that was 15. Jalen Milroe had a 20-yard run. He finished with 44 on 15 carries. So, like you mentioned, barely a 3-yard average. Texas was a little under 3. But when you've got Ewers throwing the ball to wide-open guys who are getting behind the secondary down the field, which is also quite shocking and jarring if you're used to what Alabama's had in the secondary. And look, Kool-Aid McKinstry's top 10 level NFL draft talent on a lot of boards early. But this is a team where we saw this last year, and this is why I continually told you how good Bryce Young was. Or it was my argument. I didn't have to tell you, But generally, what is this team without Bryce Young? Like, how good is this team last year? And last year they had Jahmyr Gibbs, and they had a few other guys. The skill talent this year just looks very pedestrian. What Alabama looks like to me is a good football team and a great brand, but one where the apex has come for right now. And there's a sea change, and I don't know if there certainly is not a simple fix. There are multiple things to have to change. But this is what I told you earlier. It feels to me very much like watching Alabama now is watching Florida after Alabama took over. Sure. When Nick beat them, when Tebow was in the rear view, and that was about the time that Urban was going to disappear for a few years and then reemerge at Ohio State. Florida had done a lot, and they had dominated for a while. Now, Alabama dwarfed what Florida did, but Georgia has taken it. Georgia's taken it. And you look at the SEC West right now. I mean, it's a problem. It is an absolute problem. The two best teams in the SEC might be in the East. It's certainly arguable right now. So you think about all of that, and then you just look at a Texas team that Texas is so used to not winning these kind of games that if you had done anything to force a big mistake, you might have been able to win this thing even with the effort you put out there, just because they're likely to crumble, I still feel like, because they haven't learned yet what it's like to win games like this. And Alabama could not do it. They couldn't do it even when they got close and it got tight. The fourth quarter was really exciting. The first three quarters were bad football. I didn't like either team. And in the fourth quarter, Texas really emerged. But I think the biggest story coming out of this is, I don't know what you do at quarterback if you're Alabama, but that's not the only question. And then on the Texas side, Quinn Ewers, considering what's also at Texas at that position, considering the university he plays for, the pressure, his entire story, that was a really, really nice effort from him tonight, and he deserves all the credit.